Every year our gardens change, and our next guest had to totally change the palette of her garden from roses to items that deer don't like. Our guest today here in West Nashville is Lynn Wallman. And Lynn, honestly, looking at your garden, I would never guess that this was the scene of a garden crime.
Well, it definitely was a disaster here. The deer moved in and they chomped down all my roses and hostas and daylilies, and it just killed me. So I decided to take action and grow deer-resistant plants.
Fantastic. And you said you had hundreds of roses and daylilies.
I had 200.
So this was a significant crime.
Change. I had a lot of big holes to fill.
Didn't you? And
Yes.
so what did you start with figuring out what they don't like?
Well, most deer don't like pungent flavored plants. They don't like plants with square stems, and they don't like plants with fuzzy leaves. So one of the first things that I started planting was hibiscus, perennial hibiscus. And I have about 25 varieties, and they are magnificent, and they filled a lot of holes very quickly.
Well, and what I like about them is that not only are they magnificent to look at, which this one is the size of a dinner plate, it's beautiful, but they also shade out a lot of weeds.
Yes, they do. It has survived very, very well for the last 10 years, collecting all my hibiscuses.
Gotcha. So the perennial ones are the key, right?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
and you've got how many different varieties?
About 25.
Wow.
I know,
Wow.
I know.
And with many buds to come.
Yes, I'm going to have a big show here in a couple of weeks. So.
Excellent. And cannas, they don't like this?
They don't like cannas. I think it must be something about that they don't like the fragrance. This one is called Apricot Sunset, and it's just been blooming beautifully this year.
And do you interplant? I mean, do you take things that maybe you want in your garden that deer do like and then plant these things around it?
Well, yes, I do. For example, most lilies they do like, and so I've planted these hibiscuses pretty closely around here, and it sort of protects them. I also plant garlic chives in a lot of places because
They smell.
they smell. They're very pungent, so that helps protect my special ones.
Well, I've always heard that spinners and wind chimes help eliminate them. Does that help at all, have you found, in your garden?
Well, I did put some mirrored garlands around the garden, but I think they got habituated to it and it didn't bother them one bit. So,
It's good to know things that don't work.
That's right.
So
That's
let's move on and see what else you've got, because I see you've got the Mexican sunflower
yes,
here.
this is Tithonia, and notice the leaves are very fuzzy.
Yes, and the stems kind of are too.
Uh-huh.
So they don't like the stems and the leaves. Do they bother the blooms?
Not at all.
Wonderful.
Not at all. And cleome, they don't care for cleome, so it's pretty safe. I plant that around things just to make sure.
Has this been kind of trial and error for you?
Oh, yes.
What have we got here that's also deer resistant?
This is crinum, and it is a favorite pass-along plant, and it does so well, and they've been blooming since probably May, and I have several clumps of them around the garden.
And this is another weed hider.
Yes,
isn't it?
I love weed
I
hiders.
do too. And come on around here and show us what else you've got here.
Well, this is Gloriosa daisy. It is a rudbeckia. However, it has an extra chromosome. It's a tetraploid, so that's why the blooms are so wide, and the stem and the leaves are very, very fuzzy, and the deer resist it, so that's a good thing.
4 o'clock, I would have never guessed this is a deer-resistant plant.
It is. They don't touch it at all. They don't like the foliage. They don't like the flowers. It has a wonderful fragrance in the morning. If I were a deer, I'd be tempted.
Well, and it's a lovely plant that
It
comes
is.
back on its own. That's what I
does.
like about it.
Big tubers.
Yeah.
Big tubers.
So, and you've got many colors.
Yes, I do. They self-seed fantastically.
I did not know that dahlias were deer repellent.
I know, they don't like them, and so last year I was fairly successful with 2 or 3, and this year I decided to go whole hog and do about 25. And I built this dahlia corral, not to keep the deer out, because that's not necessary, but to keep them from falling over, because they do get very tall. But I want to show you a little trick that will help you make them branch out a little bit more.
Okay, yeah, because mine kind of look like this. So show me what we can do to make it kind of splay out a little bit better.
What you do is you go to the first 2-leafer.
Okay.
And you cut that out.
All right, now see, I would never do that.
Well, I know, it's scary.
Yes.
It's very scary, and you hate to do it. But it will have branches that will come out on all sides there.
So it will come out back from where you cut it
Yes.
off, it will splay out.
Yes, it will. Now, I have already cut these back, and look how many branches I have here.
Wow.
From just cutting it back from the center. I want more blooms.
Absolutely.
And I also use a wonderful fertilizer that's 10, 30, 20. It's a bloom booster, and it makes them have more blooms and less foliage.
Gotcha. I like your color palette with your yellow garden,
Well,
where we are.
This is pretty much all yellow here, and one of my favorites has been Nephofia, or red hot poker, but in this case, it's yellow poker.
Yeah.
And I have noticed that if I cut it back, I have more and more blooms that come out.
Okay, now when you say cut it back, you mean cut back the foliage or the bloom?
The bloom.
The
Once
blooms.
it's expended, I cut it totally back. Zinnias over here, the zinnias, they don't like zinnias. And this is a trumpet plant, and it will have lots and lots of blooms that fall down. Brugmansia is
Right.
the name of it. A little bit later on, this is Baptisia, and this was beautiful. It's yellow. And then one of my dear friends gave me a whole row of marigolds. And they are deer resistant.
You know, I've used those in my vegetable garden, but not my flower garden,
I know.
which is silly because they're flowers.
Well, they're
but
very pungent, and the deer don't like them, so yay!
we've got fuzzy.
I know, this is lamb's ear, and if you'll notice, it has a square stem, and it has fuzzy, so it is double indemnity, keeping those deer away. Irises, they don't like irises either. I don't know why, but they thrive without deer intervention.
Fantastic. So you're just building
Yes.
on a go-away zone.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so bees like this, deer don't.
That's right. This is anise hyssop, and I just realized that anise hyssop is also Agastache. I didn't know that. But if you'll notice, it has a square stem, and deer do not like it. It's in the mint family.
And it's very fragrant.
Very fragrant. The bees love it. The pollinators just go wild over it.
And you've got many pollinators here.
Yes.
And you've got your zinnias here.
Yes.
This is a deer
Resistant.
go away.
Yes, they don't like it. And for some reason, they don't like these coneflowers. Now, some people say they have issues with coneflowers, but so far so good. I've got a pretty good crop going.
And allium.
Allium.
Because of the smell.
The smell and square stem. So they don't
Amazing.
like that. And I've got a peony back here, and they don't like peonies either. Hallelujah.
Well, I'm just learning all kinds of things that will put up stop
I
signs for
know.
deer.
I know.
And spiderwort. I've got tons of spiderwort, but I did not realize what of a value that it was.
Yes, it is in the Tradescantia family, which means it's part of the wandering Jew family, and it has a square stem, and they just don't like it.
And it comes back.
Every year. Sometimes it comes back too much.
Yes, it loves to spread, doesn't it? And your hydrangeas.
Well,
Wow.
this is the first year I've seen them in about 10 years. I've been faithfully spraying with Deer Away and Liquid Fence, and I have them, and it's just fantastic. I can't believe I actually have some this year.
And they've left them alone even after they've started blooming.
That's right. So far, so good.
Fantastic. You know, Lynn, honestly, this has been, I know, a struggle, but you've redefined your whole yard beautifully to give it a chance for enjoyment rather than a smorgasbord for the wildlife.
Well, that's true. And you know, I had a lot of holes to fill, so buy more plants.
Well, yeah, our mantra, right?
Our mantra.
Well, thank you for educating us on some things that are beautiful, that you can plant, and that will keep maybe the deer in somebody else's yard.
That's right. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
I enjoyed it very much.
If you like gardening, you'll want to subscribe to our channel. Home gardening tips, tips from growers, and lots of plants. Until next time.